Hey everybody, welcome to PC Perspective. If you are like us, you are probably excited about the release of Titanfall coming up this week. Actually, as we record it, it's just several hours away. Over the weekend, we spent some time to configure some systems that we think many of you might be interested in. These are ones that kind of target varying resolutions for Titanfall specific gaming. Now, there's a lot of debate now. This is really coming out on Xbox One versus the PC at the same time. Image quality wise, I think you'll find that even our base level system that targets 1920 by 1080 is going to have better image quality than what you'll find on the Xbox One. And you can do that for a surprisingly low budget. In fact, let's go ahead and start talking about those parts. For the 1920 by 1080 targeted system, this is where most PC gamers sit. This is where most of their displays resolutions are going to be set at. We start with an Intel Core i3-4330. It's a dual core processor, but don't worry about that. It still has more than enough compute power for gaming and for other tasks, but it's a fairly low cost part at $137. The MSI H87 G43 motherboard. This is an H87 board, not a Z87 board, so it's going to have less features than you would find on most enthusiast level boards, but again, this is in the sub $100 price point, and for the lower resolution that we're targeting here, price was the biggest determining factor. We've still got 8 gigs of Corsair Vengeance memory here, running at DDR3 1600, not really overclocking memory, but again, we're looking at budget here, under $90 for that. For the graphics card, arguably the most important part of the build, we're going with a GeForce GTX 750 Ti. If you follow our site regularly, you'll know that since the release of that card, it has been one of the more popular selections we've had. It has a starting MSRP around $150. The one we picked, a little bit overclocked, $179. And it's able to do that with very low power consumption. You can see we actually have a reference card here that doesn't have any 6-pin ATX power connection, although depending on the model of the 750 Ti, it may require a 6-pin to work. But it's a great video card for 1080p gaming, and it's low cost as well. For storage, because of the target of pricing on this build, we actually went with a standard spindle hard drive. This is the one here is actually a Western Digital 1 terabyte black, but in our build, you'll see it's a Western Digital blue drive at 1 terabyte that you can get for under $60. SSDs are faster. They are significantly more expensive in terms of cost per gigabyte. And talking about PC gaming, where Titanfall itself is going to require somewhere around 50 gigabytes to install, you're going to need some capacity there. For the case, I'm still a fan of the Corsair 200R. This is a $72 to $75 case, depending on current pricing. It's a mid-tower, full-size ATX. It's got great capabilities in there. We've actually have a review on PCPro.com if you're interested in. Cases is one of those areas, very user-dependent. You may not like the styling. You could look around and find hundreds of other cases in similar price ranges that will offer close to the same feature sets with different visual appeal. For the power supply, we like the Corsair CX500. This is a kind of a builder series, low cost, 500 watt unit, more than enough power to keep your processor and GPU running. And then you've got to add in, if you don't already have a copy of Windows, we use a copy of Windows 8.1 64-bit for $95 to $100. In total, that brings us to $781 for a machine that will be a complete PC, ready to do any kind of regular tasks, internet browsing, productivity, multimedia. You hook it up to your TV, make it a home theater design, but it's also going to be great for 1080p gaming. And that's really obviously the target here. And Titanfall in and of itself, keep in mind, is not hugely dependent on graphics horsepower. As you increase the resolution and image quality, it does require more, but in terms of PC games, it's not overly demanding. So the 750 Ti has more than enough power to keep 1920 by 1080p going smoothly. Our second PC build actually targets the resolution of 2560 by 1440. This is very common in 27-inch displays. I guess we'll call them the Korean LCD monitors that have been very popular recently. You can find these even on Amazon now for $350 or below. 2560 by 1440 is about 75 to 80% more pixels than a standard 1080p screen, so we had to increase our specifications at least a little bit in a couple of key areas. For one, we've upgraded to the Core i5 4670K processor. It's a true quad-core part, no hyper-threading, but it will provide you a little bit more power for games as well as other tasks that you may use. By the way, it's completely plausible for you to continue to use the Core i3 4330 in that build if you want to. We also upgraded to a Gigabyte Z87 motherboard, just under $150. It's going to add some more features, support for multi-GPU if you want to go down that road as well. Still using the same Corsair 8 gigs of memory. Other changes, we've actually upgraded from the 750 Ti to the GTX 770. Now, the 770 that we linked here is from Asus. It's the DirectCU2 unit. It's going to be about $330 to $340. It's overclocked. It's the same horsepower that you would find on a GTX 680. For this particular game, for Titanfall, more than enough horsepower to push 2560 by 1440. We also upgraded from a standard spindle drive to an SSD. In this case, we're using a Samsung 840 EVO 250 gig unit. And that does constrict you in your storage capacity, but PC boot times, game load times, anything like that is going to be greatly improved with an SSD over a storage drive. And if you still need a storage drive, which I think most of you will, you can always go up there and click the link for the Western Digital Blue drive for 59 bucks to add a terabyte of storage to it. Still using the Corsair 200R. We've upgraded the power supply to the Corsair CX600. Just a little bit more juice for the 770, and then including the Windows copy as well, where total is just under $1,200. So for just under 1,200 bucks, you can get a complete PC build from scratch, ready to play Titanfall at 2560 by 1440. Now, for those of you that are maybe a little bit on the crazy side, you're interested in 4K. Like, this is the ultimate way to play games on a single display as it is now. A 4K monitor like the Asus PQ321 is going to cost you $2,900. That's a lot of money. But it is by far the best gaming experience you'll have. It's also useful for productivity. Anybody that actually uses their PC, and Windows 8.1 makes a lot of changes to improve this kind of high DPI usage models on a Windows environment as well. For the hardware, you're going to require a little bit more upgrade there. We pushed up to the Core i7 4770K, which is a $320 processor. That's quad-core with hyper-threading. Just a better general overall system performance out of that. Kept the same Gigabyte Z87 motherboard, same amount of memory, although you could go from 8 gigs to 16 gigs depending on your budget, but I'm guessing if you're playing on a $2,900 monitor, you probably have a little bit more budget to play with. For our graphics card, we went with the EVGA GeForce GTX 780 Ti superclocked unit. This is a $725 video card. It is the flagship from NVIDIA. It is the fastest single GPU graphics card that we've tested. And it has more than enough performance and memory on board to run Titanfall at 4K. I will say up front that Titanfall is a little bit easier on GPUs than some other games, maybe like Crysis 3 or Metro Last Light. If you plan on playing 4K at really, really high image quality settings with those other games, it's possible you could need a second 780 Ti. So keep that in mind as you start to budget things. We've upgraded the SSD from 250 gigs to 500 gigs. Again, you got a little bit more budget to play with. That's going to help you maybe lessen your dependency on a standard spindle drive. The Corsair 200R is still included in that build. Chances are, again, if you're playing at 4K on this type of monitor, maybe you want to show off your system a little bit more. You can definitely upgrade to bigger, better Corsair cases, NZXT cases, Cooler Master cases. There are a lot of options out there, so keep that in mind. The power supply we've bumped up to 750 watts from Seasonic, and again, with our copy of Windows included here, our total is $1,830 or so. And that's actually a pretty impressive amount of hardware that you'll find inside that budget, right? So being able to play at 4K, although that price does not include the monitor, for 1,800 bucks is pretty nice. And I can tell you that this game will look amazing at 4K. All three of these system builds will produce gaming experiences that are well beyond that of what the Xbox One will provide. Even the 1080p low-cost build that we have here is going to produce better image quality than what you'll see on the Xbox One, and I think you'll have a much better gaming experience being able to use a keyboard and mouse as opposed to being required to use a controller. We'll definitely get some questions here about why we chose Intel processors, why we chose NVIDIA graphics cards, and the real reason for it is we have a little bit more faith in the Intel processors from a gaming side, right? In terms of IPC, their CPUs are a little bit better. You can get lower cost options, or at least similarly priced out options from AMD on the CPU side. And if you want to go that route, no issue at all, not a problem. You can definitely do that. As far as AMD graphics cards, again, they have a lot of potentially great options for these types of system builds. For example, in the low-cost build, I would have loved to have been able to include a Radeon R7 265. The problem is they were barely released in time before this video, and they sold out very quickly. You cannot find them today, and when you can find many of their cards, like the 280X or the 290s, they are significantly priced over their MSRP, which again gives NVIDIA the advantage in terms of performance per dollar, which is something that we definitely have on our minds when we're building all of these systems. Now, if you've never built a gaming PC before, and maybe some of this is overwhelming, but you know you want to, if you're thinking, man, for $780, I can get a full PC that's going to play Titanfall better, why would I buy an Xbox One? Trust me, we here at PC Perspective highly encourage you to do that. We have another video that focuses on the actual building process of the components, actually in this case with a different platform. You can check out that video as well. We also have a video that covers installation of the operating system, installing Steam, which is going to be almost the same as installing Origin, and getting up and running for the first time. It's a very easy process, and if you guys have any questions, I'm sure you can leave them in our comments section at PCPer.com or here on our video, and you'll get help from various people. So thank you guys for watching this here, and hopefully we'll see you on Origin for Titanfall soon.